Welcome back, everybody. We're diving into some fascinating research today, straight out of the American Journal of Human Genetics. And, well, frankly, it's a total genetic whodunit.
Yeah, it's really one of those discoveries that just makes you step back and reconsider what we know about, well, a lot of things. History, genetics.
So, like, imagine you're a researcher, right? You're looking at these DNA samples from all across Asia. You're thinking, okay, typical patterns of
You
diversity,
got it.
but then, boom, there it is.
This really unique genetic signature.
That keeps showing up.
Yeah, over and over, and not just like in one little spot. We're talking a huge area.
So it's on the Y chromosome, which basically
For
means
father to son.
passed down, like, forever.
Yep, directly. Scientists call it a haplotype. It's like,
Hmm.
think of it like a family crest, something that gets passed down through the generations.
Okay, I get it. So this haplotype, they nicknamed it the star cluster. And like you said, it's not just a small thing. 16 different populations.
From the Pacific all the way to the Caspian Sea. Think about that. 8% of the men in that whole area share this exact Y chromosome signature.
3%? Seriously, that's like a ton of people.
Yeah.
What happened there? Was there some massive migration or?
Okay, so this is where things get really, really interesting. Scientists can actually analyze these genetic mutations to kind of estimate when a lineage started, right?
Yeah.
It's called a molecular clock. And when they use that on this star cluster, it looks like it all started about 1,000 years ago.
Wait. 1,000 years ago. And where did you say?
In Mongolia.
Hold on. Mongolia. 1,000 years ago. I feel like that should be ringing some bells.
It should, right. Think about it. Unique genetic marker pops up 1,000 years ago. Mongolia starts spreading like wildfire across Asia.
I'm starting to get goosebumps here. Are we talking?
We're talking about the possibility that all of this whole genetic signature points back to one man, Genghis Khan.
Genghis Khan, the guy who built the largest land empire in history. Wow. We're saying his legacy might actually be woven into human DNA itself.
That's what it looks like.
Okay, hold on. So we've got the timeline, we've got the location, and we see how far it spread. It all kind of lines up. But how do we really know it's him? It's not like we can get a DNA sample from Genghis Khan, right?
You're right. We can't exactly exhume him and run a DNA test. But there's this piece of evidence. It's, well, pretty convincing. Remember the Hazara people of Pakistan?
Yeah, vaguely. They've got this
Yeah.
unique culture. Right. And I think they claim to be descended from Genghis Khan.
Exactly. And here's the thing. They have a really high frequency of that star cluster haplotype. It's not something you typically see in that part of the world. But in the Hazara population, boom, there it is. It really lends some weight to that idea that this genetic signature, it started with him.
Wow. So it's like a genetic echo from history.
Yeah.
But okay, here's what gets me. Genghis Khan, he lived like over 800 years ago. How can one person's genes have that kind of impact? I mean, that much impact. It doesn't quite make sense.
That's the big question, isn't it? And it takes us to one of the most fascinating parts of this whole story, social selection.
Social selection. All right, break it down for me.
So we always think of survival of the fittest driving evolution. The idea that if you've got the right traits, you're more likely to survive, pass those traits on.
Right, like camouflage or being super fast or whatever.
Exactly. But here, we're not talking about those kinds of traits, something that helps you physically survive. We're talking about social power, influence.
So are we saying Genghis Khan wasn't just a brilliant military leader? He was a genetic, like, superstar or something?
Well, you could say that. His conquests gave him power.
Status.
And with that comes, well, let's just say more opportunities to pass on his genes.
I see where you're going with this. It's not just about survival. It's about who's at the top. Social dynamics, power structures, and all that. It actually can change the genetics of entire populations.
Exactly, and there's this other element here too. It's called the founder effect. Imagine a small group of people, right? They start a new population somewhere. Their genes, all of them, have a huge impact on what comes next. Genghis Khan and, his descendants, they were like this massive founder group. So they might have influenced other genes in the region too, not just the Y chromosome.
Like dropping a pebble in a pond, right?
Hmm.
But this pebble was Genghis Khan, and the ripples, they just kept going.
It really makes you think. Researchers estimate that about 0.5% of all the men in the world today, something like 16 million, carry this Y chromosome signature.
16 million. That's insane. And that's what we're talking about this, right?
Mhm.
It makes you think about history in a whole new way, how it's literally a part of us.
Mhm.
And it kind of makes me wonder, are there other genetic legacies out there just waiting to be discovered?
I'm sure there are. I mean, think about it. Every human population, it has its own unique history, right? All those migrations, the rise and fall of empires, the mixing of cultures, all of that. It's written in our genes.
Mm.
And the more we learn about the human genome, I think we're going to find so many more stories like this. Stories that connect our past to who we are right now.
Yeah, we often forget history isn't just something you read in a textbook. It's a part of us, like literally in our DNA, passed down through all these generations.
Exactly. And it makes you think, if social selection was so powerful back then, what about now? What's happening in our time that might leave a similar mark hundreds of years from now?
You've got me thinking, what sorts of things happening today could be shaping, the genetic landscape of the future?
That's a really interesting question. It's something for everyone listening to consider. We've covered a lot today, from Mongolia to modern genetics, but there's always so much more to learn.
So we know Genghis Khan's genetic legacy, it's massive.
Yeah.
But this isn't just some history lesson, right? This discovery, it makes us really rethink evolution itself. It's not just survival of the fittest anymore. It's social power, influence, and how all of that can last for, centuries. It's understanding we're all part of this huge web of ancestry. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's like we're seeing this whole other side of human evolution now, something that goes way beyond just biology.
I think that's a great way to put it. We tend to focus on natural selection. But human evolution, it's also about these cultural forces, social structures, even historical events. It's all connected.
And that opens up so many questions. Like, if Genghis Khan could have this much of an impact, what about other big events? Think about those massive migrations throughout history, empires rising and falling.
Right. And it's not just the past either. Think about the world today. We're more globalized than ever. Technology is connecting us in ways we never could have imagined. And social structures, how we build families, relationships, it's all changing so fast. So are we creating our own, star clusters now? Are we leaving those same kinds of genetic stamps on the future?
It's definitely possible. This whole interplay of genes, history, and how we behave, it's complicated.
Yeah.
And we're really just starting to understand it all.
I know I'll never look at a history book the same way again. Or a DNA test, for that matter. This whole deep dive has been incredible.
Me too. It really highlights how we're not just individuals. We're like walking, talking archives of history. Our genes tell a story that links us back through all these generations. And it speaks to the forces that shaped us.
And that story's still being written, isn't it? Every choice we make, every connection we build, it's like adding another line to that story, the story of human evolution.
Exactly. It's a powerful reminder that we're part of something so much bigger, this chain of life stretching way back in time.
Well, listeners, we started in the steppes of Mongolia, and we ended up, at the very edge of what we know about genetics. It's a story of conquest, legacy, and how social forces can actually shape our DNA. And not just for a little while, but for centuries. It really challenges how we think about things. And I hope it sparked your curiosity.
I think it's safe to say we're all connected in ways we never realized. And who knows what other mysteries are hidden in our genes.
That's all the time we have for today's deep dive. But until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep being amazed by the incredible stories that are inside all of us.